Hi everyone, this is going to be a brief video about the basics of how to say Yizkor. Sadly, each year there are people who say Yizkor for the first time and they may be wondering what to say and how to say it. They may have never even been in shul for Yizkor before. I hope that this will be helpful even to those of us who have been saying Yizkor for perhaps many years or even decades, just to review and to clarify what it is exactly that we say and why we say it. Often in shul we've discussed why it is that we say Yizkor on Yontif. It seems like a little bit of a funny choice. Yontif is a time of joy. V'samachta b'chagecha, the Torah instructs us to be happy on Yontif. We say Hallel, we sing Hallel in Shul. Certainly the overall tone of davening in Shul on Yontif is one of joy and happiness. And then out of nowhere we insert Yizkor, which can often be very sad and difficult, emotional, even overwhelming. And there it is right in the middle of davening. So we've discussed various reasons in the past, as I mentioned, but I think perhaps most simply, of course, anybody who's lost a loved one knows that not a day passes where you don't think of them. Of course, we remember all of our loved ones, but on Yantif, during holidays, I think sometimes their absence can be felt even more powerfully. Maybe you used to share a Yantif meal with this particular loved one, or you davened next to them in shul. Maybe you just used to call them before Yantif to say Chag Sameach, but it's certainly a time of the year when the people who we love are often particularly deeply missed. And Yizkor gives us some space or context in which to express this love and longing and appreciation right here in shul, in the very context of our davening together as a community. So in truth, it's less about the actual details and the words that you say. It's more about the idea of pausing to remember and to pray, to add some good merit for the soul, for the neshama of your loved one or of your loved ones. But of course, the words themselves are also important, and there's a traditional liturgy and text that we use. If you have the Art Scroll Sitter, it's on page 810. We also print a Yizkor book in DNG each year, and there should be a new one that you'll see, God willing, this Yom Kippur. And we made sure this year to put in the Yizkor book all of the text that you might need or want while you're saying Yizkor. So it's a one-stop shop, and hopefully it should be easy to use. You can feel free to use that if you'd like, or a sitter or a machzor, but they're all pretty much the same text. Most of the booklet that you'll receive in shul is names. Thank you to all those who included the names of your loved ones in the book. Of course, if you didn't, that's totally okay too. No worries. But the first page of text in the book, it's actually the 22nd page of the booklet, and it looks like this. It is a gathering of a few different psukim that are traditionally said sort of as the opening of Yizkor. Most of them are from Tehillim, from Psalms. One of them is from Koheles. If you look at the overall theme of these verses, they focus on the fragility of man, of human life, which is actually a theme of Yom Kippur in general, but certainly something that we think about during Yizkor. Hashem, ma adam vateda'ehu, ben anosh vatichashveyu. Hashem, what is man that you recognize him? The son of a frail human that you reckon with him. Adam la hevel damam, yamav ketzel over. Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow. Again, something that we feel innately and that we know, but maybe we feel more poignantly as we think of our loved ones and as we say Yizkor. The last line, V'yashov ha'afar ala aretz keshaya, v'haruach tashuv el Elokim asher nesana. A powerful and maybe a little bit of an intense, a harsh line. The dust returns to the ground as it was. The guf, the body in which our soul is housed, eventually returns to the earth after 120 years, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. That's something that we think about always, hopefully, when we're mourning and when we say Yizkor, we remember that the body, the guf, the physical expression of a person, unfortunately, sadly, is temporary in this world. But the neshama, the spirit, the values, the lessons, the love lives on and it continues forever. So these psukim are generally read aloud by one leader of the congregation. Feel free to read along if you'd like quietly, or just to listen and take it in, or to look at the English, to close your eyes and to think. These are sort of the introductory verses to Yizkor that again are often said by a leader in the shul. Then we pause for a moment and quietly say together Tehillim chapter 91, Yoshev B'Seiser Elyon. This is a psalm that is actually often said at funerals. Traditionally, it's a psalm that we understand is one that accompanies us on difficult journeys, or when we might feel a little bit scared or uneasy. Yoshev B'Seiser is a reminder that if we sit with the protection of Hashem, we can live beneath his protection. Lo sira mipachad laila. We don't need to be afraid of the darkness or the fears of night, and even the darkness and the fears of of death itself is something that if we feel a strong connection to Hashem, we can, sort of accept and maybe make some peace with. It's something that can provide us some comfort, knowing that Imo Anochi Betzara, that Hashem too is with us during our difficult times, or maybe especially during our difficult times. So we quietly, privately say Yoshev Beseser Elyon. Again, you can say it at your own pace. You can say it in Hebrew. You can say it in English. That's something that we say together. Following Yoshev Beseser Elyon is when Yizkor really starts. Yizkor itself is very brief. There's a brief paragraph to say for one's father if one's father is no longer alive. There's a brief paragraph to say for one's mother if one's mother is no longer alive. The truth is, Yizkor was originally instituted primarily for one's parents. So that's the essence of Yizkor, is davening for one's mother and or father, if that is applicable. But certainly, if you have other relatives to pray for, whether they be grandparents, a spouse, a sibling, God forbid, even a child or a grandchild, all of those should appropriately be davened for in Yizkor. There's a page that says Yizkor the Krove Mishpacha, Yizkor for a relative. And that's sort of the all-inclusive. You can pray for anyone in your family who you'd like to say Yizkor for. You can say a separate Yizkor paragraph for each of them. If you're running out of time or you feel that that's too much or too overwhelming, then you can say the Yizkor paragraph once and insert several names into that one paragraph. But you'll notice that in all of these Yizkor paragraphs, there is a commitment. We say Beli Neder. I'm not making a promise, but I'm committing to give some tzedakah in the merit of this person. Yizkor is not just a prayer. It's a prayer that comes along with the commitment. And that commitment can be tzedakah. It could be a commitment to do something more than tzedakah, to do a kindness, to learn Torah, to do a chesed, to come to shul more. But really the idea is that we want to do something, bring some goodness, some mitzvah into the world in the merit, in the zechus of those that we're davening for. So when we pause after Yoshev Beisei Seralion, we give a few minutes for everyone to say Yizkor at their own pace and for their own people. A person should, say it again, as I mentioned, for their parents if that is applicable to them, and then to all relatives who they feel connected to and would like to say Yizkor for. There is, no exact number, but whatever is applicable to your family. At the conclusion of the Yizkor paragraphs, you'll notice a paragraph that is called a Kel Male Rachamim. That too can be part of the Yizkor service. We're going to do, as I'll mention in a minute, a Kel Male for the community together. So if you prefer to wait and have your relatives included in the communal Kel Male, that is one option. The other option is you can say Kel Male privately on your own. That's fine too. So if you have time and that speaks to you, you can say a Kel Male for, again, your relative or your relatives, whoever is appropriate for your particular situation. Otherwise, we will say a communal Kel Male at the end for everyone. So after the 5 or 6 minutes that is given for quiet Yizkor and for quiet Kel Males for those who choose to say that, then we'll sort of regather together to say a couple of communal prayers. We're going to say a special Yizkor for Chayalei Tzahal, for the soldiers of the IDF who have given their lives for the land of Israel since the founding of the state, and for as long as until today, those brave soldiers, young men and women who have given their lives for the protection of the land that we love. Then we're going to say a special Kel Male for members of Darchei Noam, for members of our shul who have passed away since the shul has begun. Unfortunately, the list has grown in past years, and we thought it was appropriate to say a special Kel Male Rachamim in their honor. And then, as I mentioned before, the final part of the Yizkor service here at the NG will be a communal Kel Male, where I'll say a Kel Male and I'll pause. And at the point when I pause, everybody can insert any names. We'll give a minute or so for people who would like to insert the names of their loved ones into the Kel Male. I'm going to say the Kel Male in Hebrew and in English, and you can insert the names in either one or both. And that'll be a beautiful way to say, one communal Kel Male Rachamim that includes everyone, but also includes, each particular name, and each relative can say the names that they feel are appropriate to be included. As I mentioned or alluded to before, there's no, magic formula. A lot of this is based on custom or minhag. Sometimes people have the sense that if I don't do it right, then God forbid, I can be harming the person that I love. I don't think that is how things work. The neshamos of those we love are fine. They're in Olam Haba. They're with Hashem. It's our responsibility and our privilege to honor them and to remember them and to be better because of them. There are different customs, I should mention, about leaving for Yizkor. There's no requirement for someone to leave if they are not saying Yizkor for a relative, but it is common practice that often they do. If one would like to stay or feels that they need to stay for whatever reason, then they're welcome to, as long as they'll be, quiet and respectful, of course. Even for those leaving, it's important to be quiet and respectful. Sometimes people go to the other side of the door and then do their own thing, and they should stop and pause to recognize what is happening inside. Everybody feels differently, everybody davens differently, and really the main thing is to respect each other and to be there for each other. The greatest thing that we can do for a person who has passed on is to make the world a better place because of them. And that can be through saying Yizkor, that can be through saying Kaddish, that can be through learning Torah, giving tzedakah, doing a chesed, davening. When you do something good for the world in the merit of the person who has passed away, we have a tradition and we believe that that is something that can elevate the neshama, that could be an ilui for the neshama, and something that could be very meaningful and powerful. So, as a community, we come together for good times and for sad times, for simchas and for shivas, for yontif and for yizkor, and we stick together. And I look forward to davening together with all of you this Yom Kippur and during these wonderful days of yontif, and for yizkor for the sad and difficult times of yontif as well, because that too is part of life, and our davening should be a merit and an honor to all those whom we love. Gemar Chasima Tova, Chag Sameach, and I look forward to seeing you all in Shul.